Well, a very warm welcome to you from Liverpool, the city where you get the ferry across the Mersey and where you get the football across Stanley Park, and where 1 week every year it's all about the racing. It is the National, and that is the feature, of course, of this Champ.ie podcast. So we've sent for the heavy mob to make sure that we give you all the winners from the 3 days at Liverpool. You can then blow it at Punchestown. Introducing in no particular order, Mr. Ronan Groome of the Irish Field. Mr. Barry Doyle, the co-founder of Champ.ie. He's got a number on his shirt, which I hope isn't his age. And Andrew Blair White, who sits very quietly in the corner, awaiting the answers to the questions. We're going to concentrate, of course, on Liverpool. I can tell you, I've been at the track since Tuesday. They are watering here, and the ground is not going to be any boggier than good to soft unless the weathermen have got, even by their standards, a complete mess of things. Straight in to race one, day one, and that is the Manifesto Novice Chase, the first of 4 Group 1s on the opening day to start the day off with a bang. You've got the likes of Eldorado Allen, the favourite though, narrowly, Hitman, 5-2, 11-4 for Seal Raffles, 7-2 the Shunter. And we've been there, done that, and got all sorts of T-shirts with the Shunter in recent weeks. So let us start with Mr. Andrew Blair White. Are you a Shunter fan?
Yeah, I'm a massive Shunter fan. He's won me a fair bit of money this year, and it's just interesting that they're deciding to go down this route with this horse. You would have thought he's had a hard enough season now, but I think they've probably spied that this isn't the strongest grade 1 in the world, and they've nothing to lose pitching him in here. And it's a race I wouldn't have a massive say in, but I probably would come down on him. I just think Fusil Raffles probably is the standard bearer of form, the second in the marsh. You can probably pick holes in the form line just with Envoy Len falling, and steering for Lange didn't run as well as I thought he would at Fairy House. And Hitman, I can't see why he's so short, to be honest. He fell on his last grade 1 start. He's won a Mickey Mouse race last time out at long odds on. He still has to go and prove it for me. Eldorado Allen, yeah, he's a nice horse. Probably a step up to 2.5 miles might seem to better effect as well, but he was flattered by the Oracle coming second there with the other 2 slitting their throats out in front. So it would be going for the Shunter, but it would be a tentative selection, Mike, I must say.
And one thing to stress to everybody, of course, the difference in the track between Cheltenham and Liverpool. Aintree is flat, you can run a pancake race on it. Cheltenham, you sing the 3 verses of The Hills Are Alive with the sound of music because it's lumpy everywhere. Barry?
Yeah, I suppose myself and Andrew, we know about my love affair for Eldorado Allen, ran an absolute cracker in the Arkle, and I suppose the Shunter representing Bagnallstown, Emmett Mullins has had a good season, and also Fusil Raffles is also an old flame of mine. But I've actually come down on Hitman. I think he could kick off what could be a good day for Alex Ferguson. Look, I get what Andrew's saying. He did fall on his second last start, but he's had quite a few runs now. In fairness, I think he's had 4 chase starts since moving from France. I think a step up in trip again. He was racing at 2 miles. Obviously, ran second to All Mankind. I think back on a sounder surface again. I think he's quite a nice action, this horse, and I think the track is going to suit him. But yeah, I'll be with Hitman.
Ronan Groome, what do you fancy here?
Yeah, Mike, it's the kind of the perfect race to start off at Aintree, because it's the question that a lot of punters will have to answer for races at Aintree. You have the classic flat track there, and then you have the fresh horses like Hitman, Protectorat, Umbrigado taking on the Cheltenham horses like the Shunter, Eldorado Allen, and Fusil Raffles backing up. And I think that's a question punters will have to ask over the 3 days. When will these Cheltenham horses be able to back up 2 big runs in the space of 3 days? I echo what Andrew says. I'm not sure the march form is that good with Envoy Allen falling earlier on. I wasn't a big fan of Chantry House beforehand, and I think he actually would be better over 3 miles. So that he managed to win there and beat Fusil Raffles. Chamblou went off way too soon in that race, and I just think it fell apart a bit. Hitman, look, he's not done much wrong at all. He was second to All Mankind. That was a good run. I thought he had a chance in the Marsh and decided to come here. Look, it's not a racing thing. The shunter, look, Emmett Mullins is a genius the way him and Paul Byrne have planned the season, but you can't tell me it's been the plan that they've planned to come here. This must be an afterthought, and I kind of agree with Andrew there. They just have to come here, really. There's no 2.5 mile chase at Punchestown for novices. That said, he is the form horse. Look, I'm jumping around in circles here, but Protectorat was the one that interested me, just on the form of what he did at Cheltenham early in the season. He won by 17 lengths. Look, he's been disappointing since, but I actually think that was one of the best novice chase performances in Britain this season. He's had a wind up. He's a first-time tongue tie. Skeletons have kept him back for this. He's owned by Alex Ferguson and Jed Mason, who think like the targeting proposition, given that the manner of his win at Cheltenham earlier in the season. So he'd be the one I take a chance on around 10-1.
Okay, well, we have to move on quite quickly, probably quicker than they'll go in most selling hurdles around the weekend, and move straight on to the Bowl, race 3. And Clandis or both Nichols and Cobden is the 5-2 favourite. Waiting patiently, which we have been, is 7-2. Tiger Roll, got no chance, says Eddie O'Leary on the headlines on the Racing Post. We will see. Jack Kennedy rides for the first time in 4 years. Native River 11-2, 13-2 Clondall Castle. Native River, of course, with a new jockey as well. And Clandis or Bow has got the headgear on. I don't know what it does to you, Ronan, but the headgear does tend to improve me occasionally. What do you think, you?
With the haircut I have at the moment, the headgear always improves me. Yeah, look, big fan of Clandis or Bow. But I was disappointed with his run the last day. I thought he should have got by Secret Investor. Interesting with the headgear on, if it works. You know, he probably already has the best form in the race. But as I said, I'm just disappointed he didn't get by. I think waiting patiently, he just runs well and never wins, doesn't he? So I think this is quite soft. Echo Eddie O'Leary's comments when he mentioned that with Tiger Roll. I can't really see Tiger Roll going that well either. He's 11-year-old now and he's jumping proper fences, not skimming through the birch like he's done so successfully when he usually runs at Aintree. And the one I came down on, I thought Clondalk Castle would be worth playing here. Each way maybe with the 9 runners. He's first start at 3 miles the last day. He won the old Racing Post chase at Kempton. That he clocked a really good time there and won quite comfortably, I thought. I'll give him a big chance in a race like this. He's done nothing but progress all season. I think if he can progress again and they can be ridden more confidently now that they know he stays 3 miles, I think he can go well. I think he was around the 8 or 9-1 mark, and that'd do for me.
Harry.
Yeah, I'd absolutely echo what Ronan has had to say here. I think you look at the likes of Clandis, waiting patiently, Native River, the opposition here, Tiger Roll, plenty of mileage on the clock. And in fairness, Clondalk Castle, he hasn't had a terrible amount of racing for a 9-year-old. He's been campaigned the last 2 seasons over 2 miles, 2.5 miles. And like Ronan said, first start back at Kempton, he seems to be, he's ran well at Kempton. He's obviously finished second at Aintree before. So Newbury as well. These sort of tracks are flat tracks seem to suit this horse, and it's on a sounder surface. I think that is the key to him. He could be still improving, believe it or not. So that's Johnny's quite keen on him as well, that he's going to run a big race. So 11-2, and there's probably bigger out there, to be fair. I thought he was probably the best bet in this each way.
And let me throw the broomstick at Andrew Blair White to sweep up at the back here.
Yeah, look, I think for a Grade 1 race, you can make an awful lot more cases for why a lot of these horses won't win rather than why they will win. And Clandis O'Bow's been disappointing this year. Look, a resident Cliff horse of mine is sitting in there second in the shop, but waiting patiently. And I just think if he was to replicate that King George form, replicate a run like that, I think he's got a massive chance in this. He has run some very good races in Grade 1s before. It would be a good story if he was to come and win one of these. You are obviously running the risk. He does often find one too good, but I don't think it's that strong a race. Clondalk Castle, I can see the lads, I can see the angle, but he does have to go and step up. As for waiting patiently, we know can do it at Grade 1 level, and maybe he might get his day in the sun. Brian Hughes, I'm sure, with the jockey's title heating up at the moment, he'll be wanting to bang in as many as possible. And I think if they manage to hold this horse up, get him passing horses, he won't be far away.
His day in the sun, it'll be a very cold sun, believe you me. That's on day one. We're going to hear from Jonathan Burke shortly. And also, of course, still to come, what the three wise men think about the Grand National and what Barry, Andrew and Ronan think about it. But let's first of all end at day one with this big hurdle race 4 on the card, which is the last of the Group 1s. And it is the Betway Aintree Hurdle and 7-2 Abracadabras and Jason the Militant, 9-2 McFabulous and 6-1 Bar. Now, does this hang on whether the Irish get the trip, Barry Doyle?
Good race, actually, to be fair. Andrew's mentioned cliff horses there. McFabulous was one that I suppose that I thought was going to make up into a stayers horse this year. He disappointed the last day, to be fair, didn't he? Behind Brewing Up a Storm, who also runs in here. But the race looks strong. You have Bouverdaire as well in here. Finished second, of course. He disappointed after a bit of a layoff also when finishing second last time out at Haydock behind Navajo Pass. So there's a bit of depth in here, I thought, and a couple of interesting ones stepping up in trip. The one that I like actually isn't McFabulous. Can't really forgive him for the last day. I thought he ran well below par, but Abracadabras is probably the one I'd be with here. He's interested in stepping up in trip a little bit. He's the one horse in the Champion Hurdle that we don't really know how far he would have, how near he would have got to the likes of Honeysuckle. Was never going to probably beat her anyway. But you know, he fell quite early in the race. I thought he was interesting. Again, he seems to be a horse that on a bit of better ground, it seems to bring out the best in him. I know that Jamie Codd, speaking to him before the festival, he thought he was pretty well primed to run a big race in the Champion Hurdle. Jason the Militant has been in good form as well, but just at the prices, 10-3 Abracadabra stepping up in trip. I thought he was probably the one I was going to side with here for Jack Kennedy and Sneezy Foster. So yeah, that'll be my tip in here, but it's competitive. It wouldn't be a very strong fancy, but Abracadabra's just.
Abracadabras then. What about the Magic Man, Ronan Groome? I'd love someone to actually say something nice about Jason the Militant. Nobody has it. That doesn't even have a nice name to it.
I'll tell you a short story about that. He's I know the owner rang him a few times for a few things, and he called, I think his brother or his good mate is in it, and he had to enhance his mate to come into it. He gave him the option to name the horse, and his mate named it after his child, who I think was a bit of a mad case when he was in school when he was younger. So that's why it's called Jason the Militant. Anyway, digress from that. I think you're right, Mike. I think the big question is whether the front two, the Irish pair, stay. I think Jason the Militant actually arguably has the best form in the race, beating Petit Mouchoir, giving it £9, and then you take what Petit Mouchoir did at Cheltenham, finished second in the county hurdle off top weight. I think that's big form from Jason the Militant. He has the scope to improve again. I think if he stays, he'd probably win this. But I suppose you could say the same for Abracadabras, who this race should set up lovely for him if he knew he would stay, because there's going to be a mad pace here with the likes of Silver Streak in there, Song for Someone maybe, just going up front. But in short, there's not much between these. They're all in around the 155 to 160 kind of range. Silver Streak is 163 for his win over Epitant, but I just don't think he'll stay. Silver Streak is by Dark Angel. I don't think he wouldn't stay in a bus. And to cut it short, I am going to take a chance on one at a big price on the thing that I don't know he will probably stay, but I suspect he will, and that's not so sleepy. Like I'm actually not surprised at all to see there's a bit of money for him. This horse stayed 2 mile 2 on the flat. He's been 4th and 2 Cesara, and he's coming off his best run of his life over hurdles, having finished 5th in the Champion Hurdle. He was just outpaced there more than anything else down the hill when he actually relaxed a bit. For once, he didn't go off like the clappers in front. I thought that was a big run. He was only beaten 13 lengths by Honeysuckle, and if he does stay, and I suspect he will because of that flat form, like he's a 1.5 mile winner, and he's been 4th and 2 Cesar, which he should improve really coming up in trip. So I backed him already around the 20 to 1 mark, and I'm delighted to see that there's a few people thinking the same. kind of way as well. And in a race, I think Paddy Power going top 4, back him each way. I think that's plenty of value still in around 16-1.
And if you're right, you can pay for that haircut you've been promising yourself. Andrew, they've not left you much. They've put lines through most of them.
No, exactly. Look, I'm a big fan of Jason the Militant. My one worry with him just is the ground. I don't have an issue with him staying. I think he'll stay all day. Just his best form in Ireland has come with a big dig in the ground, and I'm just not sure whether it's going to be a bit lively. I probably still will back him just because he is a horse I've an awful lot of time for. But the one that they haven't really discussed too much, and I can't see why on earth this horse was bigger than McFabulous, is Brewing Up a Storm for Ollie Murphy. I think he's some tune of a horse over hurdles. Well fancied for the Oracle last year. Look, he jumps like a wardrobe over fences, unfortunately. He dropped back to hurdles now this year and has won a handicap hurdle, I think around Taunton, by God knows how many lengths, and then won the National Spirit at Fontwell. I thought he did that really well. I don't think there's any reason. I know there's a bit of a swing in the weights. I don't think there's any reason to suggest why he can't uphold that form. And he's got good 2.5 mile form in the book. And if you're a little bit wary about the likes of Abacadabra's not staying, this horse certainly will stay. And I think he's got a very good chance. He's around 6-1. It's a bit of a muggy each way bet at that price, but I think he's got a massive chance. And hopefully we'll give Ollie Murphy what I believe would be his first Grade 1 winner over hurdles. So I do hope that happens. He's a young trainer going places, and he's a horse I think will take an awful lot of stopping, actually.
So there are our thoughts on the 3 main races then on day 1. Lots more to come, including the Grand National winner. We're going to give them enough chances to flag it up between the lot of them. That's coming up shortly. But first, let's meet our special guest. He's already had a mention tonight because of the rise he has on Thursday. But a very busy week for a man who left County Cork to ride in the UK and is now becoming one of the most go-to young jockeys in racing. And Barry's been talking to Johnny Burke.
So delighted to have Jonathan Burke on the Champ.ie podcast as we look ahead to the Aintree Festival, of course, starting tomorrow. Jonathan, you've ridden 43 winners, I counted anyway, so far this season. Very much on course to have your best season yet. Things are going great.
Yeah, I'm delighted. Delighted with the way things are going. I suppose I moved over here 3 seasons ago now. Being the first season, 45 and 38 when things stopped last year, so hopefully we can get to the 50. I missed a bit of time with the Crucial Park over Christmas with an injury, but I was lucky when things got back going. I was able to hit the ground running again and banged in a few winners, so it was great.
Yeah, looking ahead to Aintree this week, of course, starting tomorrow as we're recording, Clondalk Castle. He's been in super form this season. Rarely runs a bad race, Johnny, and like you must be looking forward to riding him now in the Betway Bowl.
Yeah, really looking forward to him. I suppose he stepped up a grade when he won the good handicap at Kempton off such a big weight, and it was a competitive race. And now he's dipping his toes into Grade 1 at Grade 1 level at 3 miles. And he seemed to improve for the last day. So, look, everything's in his favourite track. He's probably best on a flat track. That's why he stayed away from Cheltenham. Ground's right. Yeah, look, we're just looking forward to see him come back. And the Zorbo, Native River, Tiger Roll. It's a good race, but we're very happy with Clondalk and really, really looking forward to him.
Yeah, and for the past 2 seasons, Johnny, like Clondalk seems to be campaigned at 2 miles and then up to 2.5 miles. But could we only be starting to see the best of him now up to that 3 mile trip and on a sounder surface? Of course, he seems to have his best form seems to be on that better ground.
I think so. I suppose he's been campaigned with time in mind. He's got great patient owners, and Tom George won this race a few years back with Nakarat, having won the same handicap that Clondalk Castle won in Kempton. So it's probably a route that Tom had planned out a couple of years back. And like throughout his career, he hasn't disgraced himself for 2 miles. He didn't disgrace himself for 2.5 miles. And he stepped up to 3 and delivered the last day. So there's every reason to think that he is still improving and can improve again for tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like, you know, he is now moving up in grade. He was impressive the last day. He's an official rating now of 160. And it's hard to see maybe some of the other more fancy ones that they're still improving at their age. You mentioned the likes of Native River, even Tiger Roll now is coming back across. I know he won the last day, but do you think, I suppose, would you be confident your lad could go close now?
I would be, yeah. Like he's a horse that you can ride with confidence as well. Like having started off to over 2 miles and like he didn't run a bad race in an Arkle as a novice, so he isn't a slow horse. But just I think 3 miles at this stage of his career now is just going to keep improvement in him. And I'm really looking forward to him. Like I said, off his win the last day, I'd be confident now. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, I suppose, ride to kick off the week for you, with Johnny. But then obviously we move on to the Aintree Hurdle tomorrow as well, which you ride not so sleepy. And in fairness, he ran a cracker, I thought, to be fair, at the festival this year. What's your thoughts, I suppose, on him stepping up in trip? How's he been since Cheltenham also?
Yeah, I obviously haven't seen him, but Hughie's very happy with him. He's a bit of a character, I suppose you could say. He has his own way of doing things. But as he ran a great race at Cheltenham, having got outpaced from halfway down the hill to the home turn, but he stayed on all the way up the hill and he hit the line well. So he was a stayer on the flat. So like there's no reason why he won't stay the trip. I suppose he is just that big keen. So but it's an Aintree Hurdle, a grade one. They tend to go quick. So if I'm in front, so be it. But look, he's got his own way of going. And I'd have no worries about the trip for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, would that be potentially the plan? Like, does he need to go forward? Does he need to, I suppose, be ridden from the front? I like Jason the Militant now. He's obviously come in for a bit of support. He probably might be likely to go forward as well. Would that be the plan, kind of, to get him out in front?
I think so. He's a horse, I think, that needs to be jumped out competitively because one day Newbury in a bet he missed the start and he just took no part, and every day he's been jumped out positive and forward. He grabs hold of the bridle and takes you forward. So I don't think I'll change anything on him. I did it in Cheltenham and I didn't make the running, so like he doesn't have to, but just once he's jumped out positive and competitively, we can slide in after and jump from 1 or 2 and see where we are then, but he's straightforward enough.
Yeah, you ride Volan for Charlie Longs, and again another, I suppose, trainer that you've built up a bit of a relationship with over there, and he's been off the track for quite a while. Would you be expecting a big run from him?
Yeah, he's been off for a while, but Charlie starts coming back into form to do for these spring festivals. He's a horse I actually rode as a novice when I was with Charlie, so I know him quite well. He's won a few races indeed. He's off a nice racing weight. It's competitive with plenty of runners, even a lot of luck and running, but as I said, Charlie's horses tend to come into form come these spring festivals. I actually rode, I won the Topham Chase for Charlie a few years back on Ben Tellemar, so it'll be great to ride a winner for Charlie at the Aintree again, having probably Charlie been the reason I moved to England in the first place, so it's great to still be riding for him.
Yeah, the big races, of course, on the Friday. You mentioned winning that Red Rum Chase, but the Topham, this is a horse, I suppose. He's an old flame of mine, Johnny. Glenn Force. Remember fancying him for an Arkle once upon a time. You rode him. He seems to have been frustrating enough, like, but I'd imagine. I'm going to ask you anyway. I suppose his jumping probably be one of his best assets. Do you think he'll take the defences?
Yeah, Touchwood, he schooled in Lambourn last week over the entry style, and he didn't bat an eyelid down over him, no bother to him. So, as you said, his jumping's always been a massive asset to him. And I suppose since his novice campaign, he's just been campaigned at 2 miles since, and he's a horse that needs further. Like when I rode him first, he ran over 2 miles 6. Then he came back to 2.5, and then he won the Kingmaker over 2, and he was so good in the Kingmaker at 2. They've just kept him to 2 miles, so I'm really looking forward to now back up in trip, and these fences should bring him back to spark again. So, yeah, looking forward to him. Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah. Adramel, I suppose he was unbeaten over hurdles. We spoke to Tom Lacey on the podcast earlier in the season, Johnny, and look, I suppose the thing with him stepping up to 3 miles at the festival, was everything okay afterwards, or what was the prognosis?
Yeah, he was fine. I actually saw him at the gallops this morning. He looks great, and Tom's really happy with him. I think he just cut out basically, and he did the right thing in pulling him up, and that's why he's probably able to run him at Aintree. So yeah, nothing showed up. He seems well. He seems great. So yeah, back to 2.5 miles, and probably on a flat track as well might help him too. One at Haydock and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to him.
Because would the plan be to ride him positive again?
Yeah, funny enough, Tom actually said during the morning that he doesn't have to make the running. It's not the be all and end all. I suppose it's just he needs a good honest gallop from start to finish. He wouldn't want a sprint race. So yeah, if that means he is making the running, so be it. But he wouldn't have to, you know. So he's straightforward enough too. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I suppose ground-wise, I know there is a bit of forecasted rain over the next couple of hours, Johnny. I suppose every little bit of rain probably would help him?
Absolutely, yeah. Any bit that fell would be welcomed. But fingers crossed, Aintree tend to do a great job, and they always have it on the safer side of goods, or the slower side. So that would help as well if they left the taps on. But yeah, any bit of rain that fell would be welcome for him.
Absolutely. And moving on to Saturday, and Tom Lacey as well. You're right, John Beebe for Tom. He must have a strong chance, John.
Yeah, really looking forward to him. Tom is really looking forward to him as well. He's a progressive horse. He still thinks there's a bit of room with his handicap mark. He was unlucky to fall the last day. He over jumped and fell rather than actually made a jumping mistake. So and he won nicely prior to that. So and I schooled him this morning. He schooled well, and he's fresh and well, and looking forward to him. Like, the track should suit, flat track, and plenty jumping. So and he's off a lovely racing weight. So really looking forward to him too.
Absolutely, and the big race, of course, the 5:15, the feature on Saturday, the Aintree Grand National, double shuffle. He's been there before, he's run in the race before, a great servant and a decent jumper, Johnny. He comes in here off a low weight. Have you had to starve to get down to that weight, or would that be, I suppose, manageable?
No, I'm lucky enough. I don't have to worry about the weight. Yeah, I can eat away and enjoy myself, so that's not a worry. And yeah, as you said, he's been around the fences before. Touch wood, he's a good sound jumper. And I suppose having lost his way since that time he was second to King George, he's really come back to form this year and recently. He is a bit of a Kempton specialist, but as I said, he likes the fences and there's something different. So yeah, look forward to him. And of course, it's a national, and 40 runners. It doesn't really matter what odds they are, because yeah, it's a national and it's a fantastic race to be a part of.
Yeah, and you've rode in the race a good few times before, Johnny, and I suppose have this time round, have you rode the race in your head, or have you any idea tactics wise where you'd like to be?
Yeah, like, you'll be always playing it over your head, do this, do that, but the few times I've ridden in it, you kind of get to the start and there's a bit of a war, like there's just 40 horses lined up across the track, and thundering down to the first line of 6 fences, and see where you are then. So it will be just trying to get a good start and get a clear view of the first couple of fences, and let the horse find their rhythm, and just get into a rhythm with them there and get them jumping and go from there then. So but as you'll be playing it over in your head, you'll be driving along in the car, what if it happens? So but as I said, it is a national, so you're kind of allowed to dream that you can go and win it. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, you mentioned Kempton as well. I mean, the horse, he did bounce back, as you said, to form with that win at Kempton. And in fairness, he didn't disgrace himself the last day, so behind Clondalk Castle. So you'll be, I suppose, hoping the week starts on a positive note with Clondalk Castle for many different reasons this week. But yeah, the horse is obviously in a lot better form this year anyway.
Yeah, he is. Like, obviously, if Clondalcastle wins, it'll boost his chances. But if you look at his last 3 runs, he's mixed it with good horses: Clondalcastle, Lamy Dubois, and Royal Pagay, who ran the Gold Cup. So his form of late is pretty strong. So, and he's off a lovely weight. So yeah, as I said, it's just a great race to be part of, and I've been lucky to ride in it 3 times, and tis the one race where you feel like a celebrity as a jockey. So it's just a fantastic race to be part of.
I wish you all the best with him, and I suppose you are a bit of a judge as well, Johnny, and I know you have a passion for commentating as well, and I suppose the national, the favourite clock cap, if we were to pick a horse maybe outside the obvious clock cap and even the one you're riding yourself, Double Shuffle, which horse would jumps off the page to you?
Yeah, one that I really like is Borough Saint. I actually rode Acapella Burja in the Irish National that he won. And I think it was about 6 out. Ruby came up alongside me and he was pulling a cart with him. I was very impressed with him. And he was obviously mapped out for the race last year, but he's been mapped out again for this year because we've hardly seen him over fences. So he'd be the one that would jump off the page to me. He likes the sound surface. Takes that box of ground, and he looks like he's been laid out for it.
Absolutely. I wish you all the best with Double Shuffle as we move on from the national. And I must ask you, for the Champ.ie listeners, I know you haven't listened into a couple of podcasts, Johnny, this season, but as you know, we're going to ask you for your best chance of the week. Maybe if you had 2 horses maybe to follow for the week, for the Champ.ie listeners.
Yeah, of my rides, I'm really looking forward to Clondalcastle. I'm very, very impressed with his Kempton win, and we got very excited after, looking forward to this Aintree race. And as I alluded earlier, track, trip, ground, everything ticks a lot of boxes, so really looking forward to him. And John Beebe as well, he looks to have a bit of room in his handicap mark, so I'm really looking forward to those 2.
Yeah, Johnny Burke, pleasure having you on the Champ.ie podcast. Ahead of course, a busy week at Aintree. Wish you all the best this week, I suppose, starting with Clondalcastle in the Betway Bowl tomorrow, and of course Double Shuffle in the National, and right throughout the weekend. Wish you the best as well this season, and hopefully you can get to that magic number, Johnny, of 50.
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleasure.
So those are the thoughts of Johnny Burke. We wish him lots of luck. Let's move to day 2 then. And again, some fascinating racing. And of course, the Topham is the race where Nicky Henderson's won umpteen, even though he's never won the national, and he's got plenty in it. We're going to start, though, by having a look at this Betway Mildmay at 250. And interesting JP with 2 here, Chancery House and Sporting John. Tom O'Brien coming in for the ride to replace the now retired Richard Johnson. And interestingly as well, from where I'm looking, is the complete lack of any Irish. And can the big breakaway finally come good? Let's start with the thoughts of Ronan Groome.
Yeah, I think he can come good, Mike. Thought he ran a huge race in the Brown Advisory Chase, as it's now known. Just got mugged late on there by his stablemate Fiddler on the Roof. I think it was ridden a bit more cannily. Yeah, I think Cheltenham is a track that suits him probably better, but I think with that form, he's probably the best horse in this race. Shan Blue and Shanted House, as we kind of alluded to early on in the podcast, I think I'm just not sure about the Marsh form. And Fiddler on the Roof always finds a way to finish second, which, you know, could be his 5th second in a row. I do respect his form with Robbie Power back on as well. Sporting John, I don't trust at all. I think that race he won, the Scilly Isles, kind of fell into his lap earlier in the season. And in truth, with just going back to Chamblou, I'm not sure if he stays that well or not. The Kim Bailey horse, Espoir de Romay, is interesting with the fresh angle, but I think if the big breakaway can show up to his best, he could be a much needed tonic for the Colin Tizard Yard, who have been a bit in the doldrums this season, but he's definitely been one of their best horses.
Andrew.
Yeah, I'd echo what Ronan's saying about the big breakaway. I think he's got a massive chance in this. I'd be willing to take on Chantry House, as I was willing to take on Fussel Raffles. Espoir de Rome has to prove that he's going to step up, and this is the conundrum we get in the majority of these races, as Ronan alluded to earlier. These fresh horses that potentially have won poor races, are they up to grade 1 level? I'm not so sure whether Espoir de Rome is. I suppose I'd be a little bit more forgiving on Sporting John, and I know I've given Barry an awfully hard time about Sporting John in the past, but that's because he's tried to get NYLN beat with him. But this horse, look, he's liable to a bad mistake, but there is an engine in there. Tom O'Brien obviously coming in for the ride now, which is great. Hopefully Tom has a good week, because he's got this lad and he's got Time Hill as well. I'd give him an each way poke, just because if he was to put his best foot forward, he shouldn't be 12-14 to 1. He's probably a 5-6 to 1 chance on ability. So I think he's a little bit overpriced as a result, and I'd forgive him for the last day, and hopefully he can return to that something similar enough to that Sandown form.
Where's the Doyle Euro here?
Yeah, Sporting John. Oh my God, yeah, that didn't end up so well, and Andrew. Yeah, I told myself after Kempton, after the Kiddo Star Novice Chase, I said if the big breakaway meets Chamblou again, he'll definitely reverse the form. And in fairness, the likes of Chamblou.
Frozen.
Am I frozen? Hello.
Doesn't happen very often.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
I'm going to say you're back. So a brief word from our leader. Where's your shilling here?
Yeah, the old Sporting John to beat Envoy Allen didn't work out so well, Andrew. The big breakaway.
I think the machine was so shocked.
Yeah, I told myself after Kempton at Christmas that if the big breakaway met Chamblou later on in the season, that he definitely reversed the form. I think, in fairness, the big breakaway, Ronan's right in what he said, that the Fiddler on the Roof obviously picked up the pieces in the festival chase at Cheltenham. I think the big breakaway went toe to toe with Monkfish for a long time, and it's not the sort of animal you want to be going toe to toe with down the back. They went as hard nearly as they did down the back in the RSA, or the old RSA, as they did in the Supreme Novices. They went a fair clip now, and I just think. I think Monkfish potentially broke the big breakaway's heart, but I'd be willing to look. He's had plenty of runs now as well. The big breakaway this season, I'd be definitely with him in here at the prices. I think Chantry House, the Marsh Chase, I'm not so sure. I think the lads mentioned how strong that race is. It did fall apart potentially with Chamblou going nearly, I suppose, 90 to the dozen coming down the hill. Still can't make out why Harry Skelton. I suppose made the movie did, and in the Marsh. So I'd be definitely with the big breakaway in here. I think at the prices still, I could see money coming for him. I think he's getting better with every run, and he's certainly a horse even to take into next season. Overstaying trips. So he'd be the one at the prices for me. 6 to 1, I think, represents good value.
And of course, the feature handicap is over 2 3/4 miles. It's 18 fences around the national course, the Randox Topham at 4:05, and a quick skip through the market. You're looking at those towards the top of it in what is a real minefield of a race. The likes of Vision Man towards the top of the market. The top one, Ibleo, 2 for Gold, representing Kim Bailey and David Bass, and owned partly by ITV's Ollie Bell. And I pass on a word for Caribbean Boy here. Let's give first innings on this one to Barry.
Yeah, I like Precious Cargo in here. I also have an old flame, Glen Force, that I spoke to Johnny Burke about, and it could potentially go well at a big price. But the one I've come down on is Precious Cargo. He's only rated £3, I suppose, higher over fences than he is over hurdles. He's only had 2 runs this season, has had wind surgery before returning at Warwick in February. He's run at Aintree in the past. I think he was running an absolute cracker last year in the Festival Novice Chase before coming down, and he got a horrific fall, actually, to be fair, in the behind Imperial Aura. But he was going well at the time. He was probably looking like he was going to place at least at a big price. That was at last year's festival. He's only had 6 starts over fences. I think he's a very sound jumper. I think that will stand him in good stead. I think he probably will enjoy these fences. He has come in for support, and I think at 11-1, I think he's set up for a good run here. The good ground, the better ground is going to help him also. So that's a precious cargo for Nicky Henderson. But I wouldn't rule out a big run from Glen Forsa at a big price. He's a bit of an old rogue. I fancied him for an Arkle once upon a time, but at a big price, he could go well. So that's 2 against the field, Precious Cargo and Glen Forsa.
I'm going to say he knows that describing the horse as an old rogue. I'm going to say you've been described by that most 11 o'clock at night by a few people of my knowledge. Andrew.
Yeah, a couple of horses. I'd be willing to take on a few of these at the top of the market. Live, Love, Laugh hasn't won a race since Adam was a boy. And with the greatest respect to Kevin Blake, who obviously had a brilliant Cheltenham, like, I can't understand the money for Visio Man apart from the fact that he's put it up. Because it's come in from 20-1 into 7-1, and
within the
certainly from what I've seen,
within the space of 5 minutes as well.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he certainly doesn't have the form to be a 7-1 shot. Probably wasn't a bad pick at 20s. The one I'd give a chance to, and this is Dunvegan for Pat Fahey. I just think I've always thought there's a big handicap in him, and it hasn't quite worked out. Not sure whether he quite gets 3 miles. Not seemingly quick enough for 2 miles. This sort of test might just work for him. He's in there off the middle of the weights. He's usually a solid enough jumper. Jumped very well at Gorn the last day when finishing 3rd. When he was a little bit one-paced over 2-2. I'd give him a chance back up in trip. Brian Cooper booked, and he's 20-1. But a wide open race and plenty of chances for plenty of different horses, no doubt.
Ronan, I mean, this is the thing about this race is with so many runners, is there'll be some decent each way terms knocking around.
Yeah, definitely. And the best bet you can have, I think, is one of my bets to meet in this Caribbean Boy. I thought he was a massive eye catcher at Cheltenham. If he just completely inconvenienced by the start, he had to be rousted along by Daryl Jacob just to even take up a position, just even take off. And he was, unsurprisingly, he was outpaced coming down the hill. He had to go wide around the field. And to be honest, to go back and look at the race, he looked like he was going to be pulled up, turning for home. You would have said, if you had a choice of him being pulled up or finishing out the race, you would have said pulled up. And he absolutely scooted up the hill to finish 7th, only beaten 13 lengths by the shunter at the end. I did a piece with Daryl Jacob for the field last week, and I was just asking about that, and he said the exact same thing. Once he knew straight away, once the tape went down, standing start, he knew his horse had no chance. He needs to be prominent, needs to get out in front, and when he does, I think he's a real tool. I think the good ground trip absolutely will suit him. And you go back to his form earlier in the season, he won that Grade 2 at Newbury, similar track to Aintree, left-handed, and he beat Fiddler on the Roof and Getaway Trump. That form's worked out really well since. I give him a huge chance in around. I think I can see here on Betfair he's 13.5. You get better each way terms, obviously, with the bookies. I think if you can get out in front and get jumping with Jacob on him, I think he has to go close.
So that's the Topham, and that, of course, is the last race over the big fences before the big race itself, which highlights Saturday's card. And Saturday, of course, is the day that we have all been waiting for. It is the National itself, off at 5:15. Some of us have got Friday nights alone with a set of crowns and the caps, with JP McManus running 7 in the race, and several of them with real chances. Cloth Cap, a very short-priced favourite. And at this stage, it's even possible, wait for this, he could go off shorter than Tiger Roll did 2 years ago. And the difference is that Tiger Roll have actually won a national. Bristol Demide, the top weight. If you take Cloth Cap out of it, it is an absolute minefield of a really competitive national. So where do you start? So I'd put your 3 names on in a hat to work out who was going to have first, second, and third innings, and then I'll probably drop the hat. So Ronan, you start on the national.
Yeah, people are slagging off the price of Cloth Cap, Mike, but I can understand it, to be honest with you, and I'm going to back him on Saturday morning if in the hope that he goes out to maybe something close to 6-1. I think he's a bet. He's £14 well in here. I mean, he's better handicapped than Tiger Roll was for both of his Grand Nationals. Remember, Tiger Roll won cross-country races leading into the National, and he was officially well handicapped. I think he was maybe £7 maybe the first year, and maybe 6 or 7 again for the second season. So I don't get this comparison with Tiger Roll of how could he be a shorter price than Tiger Roll. Clock Cap has done his winning around over proper fences as well, not the cross-country. He won up at Kelso. He won a listed race, absolutely slammed his rivals. And to illustrate the kind of thing there, he competed up with Definitely Red off level weights there, and he would actually receive £10 off Definitely Red today. He's £16 better off with Definitely Red, having beaten 12 lengths. And that's the case with him with a lot of these runners, because a lot of these runners would have run after the weights for the National were released and subsequently ran badly and actually competing off, weights that are £2 wrong off their official ratings. Clock Cap, and we have to make this point as well, that the National isn't the race that it was of old. It's not the absolute lottery of fences. There's more finishers than fallers these days. I think if Clock Cap can get into a rhythm early on, stay out of trouble. I know there's 30 fences to be jumping, there's 39 rivals there, but he's £14 well in. He's an absolutely standout candidate for this race. You couldn't have him any bigger than 7-1 in my book, which some people are suggesting he'll go out bigger than that. I think that's crazy. Look, for me, I will wait till Saturday morning because I don't want to play him now at 4-1, and I think there's a good chance that he will go out. Maybe he won't. And just to mention one other one, because I think everyone likes to have maybe 1 or 2 bets on the National, at least 2 anyway. Acapella Bourgeois was the one for me. I cannot see why he is like 4 times the price of Burrow Saint, who he beat in the Bobby Joe Chase, and will now actually race with him off £7 better terms. He's £6 well in. Acapella Bourgeois, I think he won the Bobby Joe Chase by 15 lengths last season, so that would have been the time for his National. He's an 11-year-old now, but he's another one. I just think that if he can improve for the step up and trip, he goes out in front, so he should stay out of trouble. And he made plenty of appeal to me each way as well. But Clock Cap is really my way into this race, and I'm going to wait till Saturday morning and hopefully get a better price.
Joe, am I right in thinking this would be a good year to go up and speak to the legendary JP McManus and ask him which is his first choice here? It's that sort of a race, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it looks a very hard race. I get what Ronan's getting at with Cloth Cap. I think the majority of people are just simply trying to take him on from a price point of view. But the form is there, the credentials are there. Whether you want to be taken 4-1 about a horse that hasn't ran over the distance or the national fences, it's probably up to the individual. I'm going to give you 3 in here, Mike, at bigger prices that I think will run well. I think Discorama will run well. That being said, I think his price is poor in comparison to what it was maybe a week ago. He was around 33s a week ago. A few people have cottoned on to him off 10 stone 6. It's a nice racing weight. We saw with the Nolans with Mrs. Milner in the Pertemps that if you give them a lurker with a low racing weight, they can get one ready. This horse has always looked like he needed a big trip, and that's what he's going to get in this. Although he does have to come from the back, which just typically you want a horse that maybe wants to be a little bit more prominent. Typically, although One for Arthur did do it. And 2 at bigger prices, and I'm going to go for a little bit of a trend here that a few older horses tend to run well. Of the last 10 Grand Nationals, if you took the first 6 of each 10, so that's 60 runners, 34 of those 60 have been 10-year-olds or plus, including 3 11-year-old winners. And I'm putting 2 11-year-olds to you, one being Annabelle Fly, who I think has dropped down to a nice weight now, under 11 stone, has placed in the race twice before. You can get 25-1. Annabelle Fly hasn't shown much in recent years, but I think there may be still a flame there for him. And the other one was a horse that ran very well in the cross country, Alpha Des Obeaux, who's currently 66-1. I remember Gordon doing this with Bless the Wings a couple of years ago, ran a good race in the cross country and placed in this at 150-1. Jody McGarvey's probably had the week of his life at Fairy House. He's booked to ride for Denise Foster. I just think he came 3rd in the Beecher 2 years ago off £7 higher. He's got a good swing at the weights, actually, even with Kimberlite Candy based off that form. He's now back under 11 stone. I think he's got a decent chance of 152 of being one of those horses that you just don't think will run well and then suddenly rocks up in the frame in third or fourth. So Alpha Days Oboe at 66 to 1, I just think maybe that lurker that runs a big race at the rag price.
We're going to ask the three of you to give you 3 horses each in a moment. And I think I might even have my 6 penny worth as well. Barry, are you a cloth cap man or not?
No, absolutely not. I don't know how you could back a horse at 7 to 2 for a national, being honest with you, a Grand National at Aintree. Now, I know it is a different sort of a race now. They have lower defences, and they're even saying that the second season novices, Andrew's mentioning older horses, kind of 10-year-olds or plus, but it's sort of a race that maybe might favour the more well-handicapped horse now versus the horse that maybe has a lot of experience or has, I suppose, runs under his belt. But Acapella Bourgeois, couldn't agree with Ronan more about this one. I think he's absolutely crying out for Aintree fences. He's going to be ridden prominent. He doesn't know any other way of racing. If you're backing Burrow Saint at his sort of price, then surely to God Acapella Bourgeois is value at I think best price 22 to 1. I know that this obviously was his target before the Bobby Joe. Wasn't expecting him to come out and do what he did. I just think that Aintree is going to suit the horse down to the ground. Now, some of his better form is on a bit more softer surface, but I don't know. He's going to be ridden prominent. I think he'll love the fences. I think he'll run very well. That's Acapella Bourgeois. I've always thought he would make an Aintree horse run a cracker, of course, in the Irish Grand National. Johnny Burke actually rode him on that day, on that occasion, 2 seasons back. So yeah, that's Acapella Bourgeois. He'd be my selection number 1. I think Milan Native is one that I had down ever since his Kim Muir win last year. I had him down as a national type. He started the season with a win this year. He's had a good couple of runs since. Seems to have fallen off the boil a little bit, but I know when Jamie Codd was speaking last night on the At the Races program, I think there was a glint in his eye when Milan Native was mentioned. He could potentially come in for the ride on him. So yeah, he's one that I've flagged up as an Aintree horse. I think since the start of the year, I've always had my eye on him. I think there's a big pot in him this year, and I think off his mark, he's not. I think he carries 10 stone 6, so off 149. Third horse that I'm going to mention for the Grand National is one that is he's just Mr. Consistent, isn't he? He carries I suppose a big weight, and he ran in the stairs hurdle, but that's a storyteller. He's just one that never seems to run a bad race, and I think he obviously carries 11 stone 8. It's going to be a pretty big ass to win off that. Keith Donoghue gets on well with the horse. I think you could do a lot worse than have him on your side. I think best price 22 to 1 in here as well. So I think the storyteller will run well, and I think he's going to. I suppose he's running he's danced in all the big dances, and I think that he's definitely one, as I said, to have on your side coming into Aintree. That's the storyteller.
The race then off at 5:15 on Saturday. So let me now ask you for 3 horses each. But maybe I'll kick in first, because I'm sure you want to get me out of the way before you hear from the real experts. Kimberlite Candy, I thought, was close to being a good thing for the race that ever happened 12 months ago. It was really impressive at Warwick. Only had 1 run since, and very significantly for me, because they looked, this horse has to go fresh. That was over the fences in the Beeches, second to Vieux Lion Rouge, who is quite a unique character over these fences. I agree with Barry about Milan Native, and I'll give her a mention in the hope, because something at a huge price outruns it on what will almost certainly be a last racecourse appearance. Let's give a cheer for Cabaret Queen amongst the rags. If she can get into a rhythm, she might just love it. And if she loves it, she could really, bearing in mind they had 2 big wins, have both been Grand Nationals. Who knows? One can but dream. Anyway, from dreams to reality, Barry Doyle, your 3 national hopes.
I'll give you the typecast. Acapella Bourgeois to win, Milan Native to come second, and the storyteller to run a cracker, as he always does, in third.
Another 1, 2, 3 for Ireland. I had a few of those. Andrew.
Yeah, 3 for Ireland myself as well. Discorama to beat Annabelle Fly and Alpha Des Oboe.
Discorama only, I think, won 2 races in its life. Highest class, of which was a beginner's chase. I think it's amazing how it happens.
Rule the World was still a beginner.
Exactly, Rule the World was still a maiden. So I'm just saying, lightning can strike twice, but maybe not at Aintree on the first Saturday in April. Ronan.
Mike, I wish you the best of luck with Cabaret Queen. Absolutely fantastic story. I hope she goes well. But my 3 that I'm taking are Clock Cap. Just to clarify, I'm not saying to go and back Clock Cap now 4-1. I'm kind of hoping for the better price on Saturday morning because I think he deserves his place well and clear to the top of the market. So something around 11-2, 6-1, I would be back on that. But for my 1, 2, 3, I'm going Clock Cap, Acapella Bourgeois, and Discorama. I think can run a big race as well.
All about caps, isn't it? Some of us have got 7 of JP's to learn. They better not swap them around. But whatever happens, above all, let's hope they all come home safe and sound. And there's a winner in there somewhere, or 20. And one final question, naps and next bests for the whole weekend. Take your pick. Hands up all those who are tipping in the novice hurdle at Newcastle. Go.
I'll go first, Mike. My nap is Time Hill in the 3 mile hurdle on the Saturday. I think the Stairs hurdle form from certainly the English horses was pretty brutal. I think he'll go well as a fresh horse. And my next best is David Christie's Some Man in the Fox Hunters on Thursday over the national fences. You can get 9-1 about him each way. Loves good ground, loves 2.5 miles. So hopefully he can do the business.
And Ronan.
Yeah, going for a couple of prices here. I actually think Adagio is a great price tomorrow. Well, not a great price. I just think he should be favourite. So that would be my kind of more of a banger. But I want to go with a decent price. And Caribbean Boy in the top one, I think, is just overpriced at around 11 to 12 to 1 mark. So that would go for my nap. My next best, I do like Not So Sleepy. I think is a lovely each way play in the Aintree Hurdle tomorrow.
And I will chance. Well, I'll tell you in a moment. I'll keep you waiting, Barry.
Nap comes in on Thursday, which is tomorrow, as we're recording. In the Manifesto Novices Chase, I think Hitman is a great bet. I think this has been. They've obviously avoided Cheltenham, so this has been the plan for him. There's a couple in here I want to oppose, and a couple of Old Flames that I'm opposing as well. But Hitman, I think, is a good bet. I think best price out there is 11-4 on him, so I'll make him my nap. And I like Precious Cargo each way in the Topham. As I said, he's only had 2 runs, six starts over fences in total. He had a nice run the last time after a wind up. Ran a cracker at the festival last year, the Cheltenham Festival, before coming down at the last. And I just think he's one that's unexposed and will like the Aintree fences. Good ground will suit as well. So that's Precious Cargo at 11-1, and it's potentially a little bit bigger out there for him as a next best of the week.
And for me, I would go completely off message here. Lust for Glory for Sam Whaley-Cohen, who's got an extraordinary record over the fences. Riding for Nicky Henderson, who's got a stinking awful record over the fences in the National, but has won 4 Tophams. I think that's a knocking good bet in the Topham. And each way, I'll go Vindication next best in the Stayers on the Saturday. So that is our podcast done for Champ.ie, looking ahead to the Randox Grand National at Aintree, 5:15 on Saturday. It's just getting dark now as we're doing this, looking out over the race course, and it's perfect, but the problem is going to get quite cold, and therefore they may have to put a bit more water on it to keep it as good to soft. But sadly, of course, it won't be heavy going in the pubs on Saturday night celebrating, which has always been part of National Weekend. And Nicky Henderson says he'll miss the ladies here on Friday. I thought he had a slight issue with his sight. Anyway, enough from me. Thanks very much to everybody, and please do share, react, and come back and join us next week when it will be both the mixture of flat and the start of the classic trials and the jumping with the Scottish Grand National. The voices you heard from Barry Doyle, from Ronan Groome, and from Andrew Blair White. I put X in the spot for Mr. Anonymous. Bye-bye for now.